Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Hello and welcome to Living on the Edge. For every minute of this program, 50 children will be born somewhere in India. At the end of 25 minutes, over 1,200 would have been added to our numbers. And each year, we add on the population of Australia. What are the consequences of such uncontrolled growth? Have we exhausted all our population control strategies? And will we ever turn the tide? Sunil Manoharan reports.
Even as India's population continues to soar, exceeding all projections and forcing a rethink of strategies, Tamil Nadu has managed to halve its birth rate in just under a decade. Against a national average of nearly 4 children for every married woman, the state produces just over 2 children. Coming on the heels of the successful Kerala experiment, Tamil Nadu is a revelation of what innovative strategies can achieve. At the heart of the unique experiment in the southern state is a shift in focus from family planning and contraceptive distribution to women and child welfare. Midday meals for children and better health services for women have actually lowered the birth rate. Sadly, an imaginative approach to population control is lacking in most other states. Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and Bihar are India's 4 largest states and together account for 40% of the population. Population planners call them Bimaru or 6 states.
Now these 4 states account for 40% of India's population and they add 42% of the growth, decadal growth. So therefore the frontal attack has to be on these 4 states. However, our policy is more or less the same. From Kashmir to Kerala is a one norm.
Perhaps one reason for this is the obsession our planners have for contraceptive distribution and sterilization for women. How else would you explain why the drastic increase in contraceptive usage in the 80s has not induced a proportionate fall in birth rates?
Of course, we have also brought down the birth rate, but the progress has been too slow. We have had this game for the last 40 years, and we claim that we were the first country in the world to have formulated a state-sponsored population policy. So people have a right to demand that such a policy should succeed because we were first in the game.
I think there's several reasons for it. One, I think in the past we've been obsessed with what I call targetitis. That's an overemphasis on meeting quantity rather than on quality of health care. That led to a lot of things. That led to state governments fudging figures in terms of couple protection rates. It meant that the birth rate didn't fall.
Instead, our population today exceeds that of the 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th largest countries in the world put together. Every 6th person in the world is an Indian. Each year we add on the population of Australia. These mind-boggling figures only underscore the unrelenting pressure exerted on scarce, non-renewable resources in both rural and urban areas.
When we were a simple society and our needs were simple, our pressure on the environment was negligible. Now as we develop into more sophisticated society and using ever more natural resources, obviously with every increasing mouth to feed, our needs are growing.
In these circumstances, experts are advocating a drastic overhaul of existing population control strategies. A draft national population policy called the Swaminathan Report seeks decentralized management of programs, delimiting the role of the Ministry of Family Welfare, and disincentives to control growth.
Minimum age at marriage for girls is 18 under the law and 21 for boys. And any person who wants to join the government, if he violates this, the woman is below 18 and married and the man is below 21 and married, he is debarred from even applying. He will not be called for interview, he will be debarred.
It was the need to help developing countries combat their growth rates and achieve an effective consensus that prompted 3 international population conferences. At Bucharest in 1974, Mexico City in 1984, and in Cairo. The question is, have they achieved anything significant?
These conferences are like Kumbh Melas. You know, in Kumbh Mela, the big congregation every 12 years, where all the sadhus can meet and exchange notes. So this is like a Kumbh Mela for population experts every 10 years.
But one thing the Cairo conference did reveal was the divergent perceptions of the developing world on the one hand and the industrialized world on the other. The so-called first world countries believe that it is the uncontrolled population growth in the third world and the pressure on depleting resources that is causing global warming, ozone depletion and other environmental problems. What Western countries tend to gloss over is that though they form only 23% of the world's population, they earn 80% of the world's income and consume 60% of all energy produced. In more human terms, one American child eats as much as 33 Indian children or 422 Ethiopians. If you think that's amazing, steel yourself for this. An American consumes over 2 tons of steel every 5 years in the form of cars, eats 112 kilograms of meat and consumes 822 kilograms of oil annually. An average Indian consumes just 50 kilograms of steel annually and eats only 2 kilograms of meat each year. If that shocked you, consider this. If population is ever measured in terms of consumption patterns, the population of the United States would be 25 billion and India's 300 million. Conspicuous and wasteful consumption in the West is a much more significant cause of global environmental problems than unbridled population growth in the third world.
The point is quite clear. The consumption units is what is most important. And it's clear to anybody that northern countries consume almost 10 to 20 times more than, say, countries like India do.
At the end of the day, rhetoric isn't going to solve India's population problem. Countering Western propaganda may help score debating points, but the ever-growing numbers will only handicap progress and push the country over the brink. After all, slogans like development is the best contraceptive are half-truths at best, and no substitute for flexible, decentralized action. Development per se can only increase the demand for water and sanitation, energy and land, increase pollution and destroy natural ecosystems and wildlife habitats.
Well, being in the beauty business, it is important to look good and it's important to look beautiful all the time. And so one ends up using a host of products ranging from a simple stuff like an eyeliner to lipsticks and shampoos and just about everything that comes under cosmetics. But even you use all these products. A simple thing like an eyeliner or a mascara But what you probably don't know is the number of animals and the kind of cruelty that they're going through just so that you can use this safely. Like something like an eyeliner, well, a caustic substance is put into the eyes of rabbits till they actually go blind. That's food for thought. And the next time you put an eyeliner, think about all those rabbits that have been blinded for you. But if you really care about beauty without cruelty, there are alternatives, because there are a lot of companies that are making products that are not tested on animals. The next time you go out and buy one of these products, make sure you ask whether it's tested on animals or not. Because if you do, you're starting with a change right now. As an aware consumer, you can demand for products that are not tested on animals. And remember, every action of yours counts.
Still to come, why this substance is worth much more than you think, and why animals hurt and orphaned in the wild now have a place to call home. But first, an update.
Episode 27, April 1995, The Delhi Ridge.
Living on the Edge analyzes the reasons for the continuous degradation of the Delhi Ridge. Encroachments and official apathy are seen as the greatest threats to one of Delhi's last remaining green areas that acts as an oxygenator, a respirator, dust barrier and depollutant.
March 16, 1996.
Polo ground stables on the ridge demolished by order of the President, as they were unauthorized. March 7, 1996. The Supreme Court directs the DDA to evict marble dealers who have encroached on the South Central Ridge. Simultaneously, the Supreme Court orders the entire ridge to be fenced off by May 31st this year. Ironically, on the same date, the ridge completes 2 years as a protected area. Verdict: belated but welcome measures. However, more protective action needs to be taken.
We used to import it before independence, but now we're the world's 6th largest producer. And yet, extraction methods remain primitive and the state of workers is depressing. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, let's just say you can't live without it. Nandini Rajwade shows you how this substance is worth much more than you could ever imagine.
It is as vital to us as the food we eat and as indispensable as the water we drink, and yet we take it for granted. But if you visit Kharaghoda in Gujarat, you'll undergo a quick change of heart. Seeing how it is produced is a revelation in itself. Gujarat produces almost 70% of the country's salt. Of that, Kharaghoda in Kutch produces about 40%. As we sped across the desert in search of the salt fields, the intense heat and sheer absence of people over long stretches made us wonder how anyone could survive here. Dasrath has been working in the run for 7 years now. His story is not very different from any other Agarya story. Agarya is the collective name for salt workers who for 9 months from September to April brave the intense heat and debilitating cold of the run. They live in jhopris in almost subhuman conditions to earn in the end a few thousand rupees. The salt making process starts with the digging of wells to locate underground salt water. If the Agaryas are lucky, 15 days of digging bears fruit, but often they aren't. And because what they earn depends on how much salt is collected, it is possible that their work can sometimes go in vain.
5,000 ही मिलेगा, वो 4,000 ही मिलेगा, वो कहीं ना मिलेगा. पानी हो तो मिलेगा. हाँ, पानी हो ही तो मिलेगा, नकर वो 8 महीने की मेहनत को कहीं ना मिलेगा.
The salt producing areas are owned either by the government-owned Hindustan Salt Limited or by private entrepreneurs. The industry as a whole employs about 1,000 Agaryas residing in surrounding villages. What is absolutely unbelievable is that the expenses generated in the search for salt are borne entirely by the Agaryas. The profits in the end do exceed the expenses by about 5,000 rupees.
पहला खर्चा तो ये है कि सामान लगाना ये होए तो ट्रक का भाड़ा देना पड़े.
ठीक है और
वो मशीन का कोई सामान नाखना पड़ेगा, ये खर्चा आते हैं, और डीजल का खर्चा आते हैं, પછી यहाँ दाड़िया करवा पड़े, उसके ये एक दिन तो काम था ही नहीं, तो बीजा दाड़िया करवा पड़े, मजूर आते हैं, उसको पैसा देवा पड़े, वो 25,000 का खर्चा था, ये 20,000 का खर्चा था ये।
Salt making involves preparation of ponds, collecting the salt water and then draining it to separate the salt. The process exposes the agarya to all sorts of ills. Salt gets absorbed into the skin as workers spend long hours in ankle-deep saline water. The harsh reflection of light from salt causes eyesores. Skin lesions and flame retardants of hands and feet also occur. Spinal deformities are common.
पैन में पानी ठंडा होता है, वो पैन में करतर हो जाती है और मानस देर भी हो जाता है, और पग में पहले से शुरुआत में तो चांदा पड़ जाता है, चांदा पड़ने से उसका पग भी वो हो जाता है लकड़े जैसे, और मानस मरने के बाद वो पैन जलता नहीं सारा है।
We found no ailing agarya here. Salt production is not an occupation for sick people. As soon as you are found unfit, you are replaced by a more able-bodied person.
They retire at the age of 45. The moment the owners come to know that they are suffering from backache and they cannot be cured, they remove them. So, that is why it's not coming to light, that they suffer, they have occupational hazard, because it's hidden. It's very clandestine. The management knows, the owners know that they have the occupational disease. They don't want to cure them. They don't want to spend, it's not cost effective.
Though Hindustan Salt Limited officials refused to speak to us on camera, privately they claimed that the Agarya's problems were of their own creation, that some even paid tax but squandered their earnings on liquor and gambling. What really ails the Agarya, however, is not so much his wage, which is a pittance, but the conditions he works under. He has to travel at least 10 kilometers to bastis and towns for his basic needs. A visit to their village revealed locked houses, a few old folk and a worker or two who had come to collect the weekly ration of vegetables, pulses and beeries. The run of Kutch has little to offer the Agarya. Drinking water transported by tankers is stored in open tanks and is unfit for human consumption.
हम तो ये रजूआत करें सरकार के पास कि हमारे मुसीबतें आती है रण में से नमक पकाने के, तो आप हमको मदद करो। दूर दूर हमने पानी से ढूंढने जाना पड़ता है, नज़दीक गांव हो लगभग कितना 15-20 किलोमीटर जाना पड़ता है। अच्छा करे नहीं, दूसरा तो हमारे पास कोई बिजनेस कोई कारखाना नहीं है, तो हमारा बच्चे भी यही करेगा, हमारा बाप के बाप है और हम भी आए और हमारा लड़का भी आए, चार पीढ़ी होगी।
It is a vicious cycle. Because children aren't educated, they have few options and must continue the work of their forefathers. To them, the desert is home, where all their dreams rest, symbolized by little temples that dot the landscape. Less transient they hope than the mirages that greet them every day.
Whenever we do a story on animals, we are deluged with letters asking just one question. Why are human beings the most cruel of all living creatures? Many of us would like to do something for animals, but don't know where to start. M. Uma of Mysore asks, I would like to build a hospital for injured animals, but in my family there's no encouragement and I have no facilities. What shall I do? Tisha Srivastav tells us about a place in Pune where orphaned and hurt animals are taken care of before they are released into their natural habitat.
He sounds like an impatient pressure cooker, is a family friend of the vipers, and can help you choose between heaven and hell in 14.5 minutes flat with a gentle caress of his stinging tongue. Mr. King Cobra sounds awesome, but he's actually quite peaceful and detached and believes in a rather diplomatic don't mess with me and I won't mess with you attitude.
In fact, this is just what the volunteers at the Pune Snake Park will tell you about all snakes, that unteased snakes seldom bite. They aren't half as interested in human beings as we'd like to believe. It's difficult to overturn centuries of prejudice and fear, but Neelam Kumar Khere, who holds the Guinness World Record for spending 72 hours with 72 poison snakes without being harmed, thinks it's definitely worth the effort. Each day, over 1,000 visitors are introduced to the world of Sapamitra here. That you shall not kill any snake, or for that matter any animal, is a philosophy that guides the work of the volunteers. In fact, within the ever-popular Snake Park is a unique orphanage, not open to the public and devoted only to the care of sick wild animals.
Have you ever wondered what seems to happen to animals who get hurt in the wild? Injured snakes, an owl with cataract. What becomes of these animals once they're injured? There's a unique animal orphanage in India at the Pune Snake Park where these animals are being taken care of.
A porcupine battered on the head, a wingless eagle, owls with cataract, a monkey with only one hand, leopard cubs deserted by their mother in a jungle fire, kites with hurt toes, if you're an animal who's hurt and injured and find yourself here, you're sure to be fondled, taken care of, fed and released into your own habitat should the occasion arise. For example, these well-nursed kites have the option of flying away whenever they feel like from their half-open cages. In the absence of Mr. Khere, the Secretary of the Indian Herpetological Society spoke to us about how it all started.
The orphanage started when we saw an injured bird which was brought to the local zoo and refused by the zoo authorities. We decided to take care of the bird, and later on birds, animals, leopards, anteaters, snakes and even vultures, they started coming. We have a cinereous vulture which is a rare animal. One of the leopards which came to the snake park last year had fallen into a well. Somebody thought it was a cat and brought it to the snake park.
What's endearing about the orphanage is that most of the work is done by volunteers. Workshops on treating snake bites and spreading awareness about why Nag Panchami could spell doom for the snakes are part of the park's regular activities. And when you see the fondness the animals and the caretakers so obviously share, it seems worth it not leaving them to become victims of Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. And considering it's just a few citizens of Pune who've gotten together without any outside help, it's a laudable effort indeed.
Injured and orphaned animals who cannot survive in the nature, somebody has to take care of them. There has to be a place where they should find shelter and food. Otherwise, they'll just die.
While conservationists mull over mega wildlife issues, here is an example worth emulating of what you can do to help. An untiring citizen's effort worth replicating that seems to run on the motto, to love and to hold till good health do them part.
That's all we have for you this week. Till we meet again, here's a little something on how individuals can make a difference.
Excuse me, is this the house of? Is this a dog house or what? We turn to clarify the address with a chowkidar, and hello, a bow-wow chowkidar signals his presence. We slink in only to see a lot of construction work and many more dogs. Curious, we step in and witness a cuddly, heartwarming session. While our camera captures the emotion, our newfound doggy dosts get emotionally charged, and just as suddenly, rather detached, seemingly bored with the limelight, they get busy doing their own thing. Our curiosity aroused, we asked the owner about the breed she owns.
I'm very proud. Indian mongrels.
Commonly known as stray dogs, they are a must lot. But wait a minute, aren't stray dogs supposed to be?
They're a potential threat. A street dog should be shot dead.
Exactly the sentiment of many a cautious citizen. And Poonam's?
I have just one thing to say to them. I mean, you have people who are murdering people today, you have rapists, you have everybody all around. Are you going to start killing all the men just because they might do something?
So what could you do?
I went around street by street, colony by colony, vaccination, sterilization. I did that totally voluntary.
But what did people say while she was at it?
We actually had to bash up a couple of people. We had shouting matches and everything. Caste, creed, everything came in. You know, can't you have a pet in your own house? Why are you worried about these guys? They come, they go. How does it matter? It took me a long time. Just be supportive. I mean, they don't have to stone or kick or kill or do something which is unnecessary. And everybody doesn't have to be as hysterical as I am or as obsessive.
Poonam seems hysterically happy with 25 of her locality's canines living as her pets, whatever that means. As Poonam takes her dogs for a walk, I can't help but wonder whether her house is a dog house, a house full of dogs, or just one blissful dog gone home.